Hey guys, what's going on? It's Brandon, and I'm going to talk about the Matrix today. The metaphor. George Bush Jr. says the Matrix is his favorite movie when it came out, and that's really profound. And it always struck me as something really powerful. And I know I'm not the only one, but I always felt like, I feel like I'm Neo. I feel like I'm supposed to do something. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's felt that way, but some people just go watch the movie, have a good time, blah blah blah. I don't think they really felt inclined that they're supposed to fix big problems. Well, what's really weird is this whole thing's a big metaphor, and by me having difficulty releasing, let me make the car quiet here. By me having difficulty releasing my patents to the world, it's actually been because of my expectations of my close friends' participation in the ideas. And what's weird is they're against the ideas that make the world a better place. Now they might say, no, we're for them. And they might throw it back on me of, why didn't you do anything yet, Brandon? We're for them. No, they're not. And this is the issue. And the best analogy I can give, and I'm not trying to sound like an asshole here, but this is the analogy. When I listen to my best friends speak about inflation and the corrupted system and people in power and how they keep gaining more control and it's a vicious cycle, blah blah blah, I then go on to try to explain to them the inflation games, which are allowing them to gain more control systematically, and how to stop the inflation games. But in the back of my best friends' minds, they know that inflation can serve them beneficially. They can capitalize on the inflation, as can I. Okay, smart people know how to capitalize on inflation, but they want their cake and want to eat it too. They want the inflation to exist so that they can profit off of other people, but they themselves don't want the world leaders to be able to use inflation to then get the best of the rest of humanity. And so the best analogy I can give, and I hate to be blunt with this, but when I hear these guys speak in circles, because it's circles to me, it's like listening to a person who's a crack addict sit there and explain to you why other crack addicts are bad and why drugs are bad, and they hate dealing with crack addicts. Or maybe a better analogy would be this: they like to do their coke and they like to smoke their weed, but boy, are crack addicts the devil. Okay, so anything that's worse than them is the devil, and anything that's more sober than them is two goody two shoes. Okay, so I'm the goody two shoes. I'm the one who wants to stop inflation, right? Now I want to back up, and you got to forgive me, I don't know the exact paper name, and I'm trying to remember it as I speak here. Maybe I'll remember it, but there's a very famous economic paper that was published that the World Banks dug their claws into, and it became like economic gospel. And that economic gospel was when the paper was launched that said that, inflation needs to be right around 2%. Because before that, the average Joe who had any kind of economic wit about them knew that the other option is deflation. And deflation actually favors your small town people. Okay? Deflation hurts big banks, hurts Wall Street, and favors small towns. Inflation favors big banks, favors Wall Street, and hurts small towns. Okay? And a lot of people don't understand this. It's like forgotten truth of economics. So you have macroeconomics, which is how do we make the whole pie bigger, but the world leaders don't want you to study macroeconomics. They just make it like a one course. Okay, there, we're done with that. Now let's get on to microeconomics, and let's figure out how to rob, get a bigger piece of the pie and steal from the other guy. And that's what the world leaders want you to be programmed with, is rob Peter to pay Paul economics. They want you to rob the other guy for you to become wealthy. They don't want you to understand how to make the pie bigger. And that's the moral thing to do. Okay? So for instance, one of my best friends does computer programming stuff. And then another one of my best friends is involved with banking and mortgages. Okay? Now, the guy involved in banking and mortgages, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. If we go to a better system that's not corrupt anymore, he's in for a bad few years in the mortgage industry. The mortgage industry actually needs inflation to continue and to continue and to continue because they need houses to become more and more expensive so that people continue to say, oh yeah, I want to refinance. Oh yeah, I want to move because I have equity in my house. Deflation is a mortgage broker's worst nightmare. So herein lies, okay, so let's talk about how deflation helps the average American, the regular people. Food becomes less expensive, fuel becomes less expensive. Even if your house becomes less expensive, who cares? You already own it. You're set. Now you can go buy more houses, okay? Everything becomes less and less and less expensive, okay? And you say, well, that doesn't work. It actually does. It works just as well as things becoming more and more and more expensive. It's just a different direction, okay? So, the big bankers in Wall Street make it sound like it's the end of the world because it's the end of their world. But it's not the end of the world for the little guy. So rather than me sit here and try to promote deflation, all I'm going to tell you is this. I'm going to get back to the main point of this video. The main point of this video is people don't realize how many of them are actually on Agent Smith's team in the Matrix. So my buddy, who is on the mortgage broker team, he is on Agent Smith's team. And I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sit here and hope for inflation and then sit there and in the next breath say, we got to get rid of these evil world leaders. Because all that the evil world leaders want is inflation. That's the whole name of the game. That's the whole method behind their madness. That's what it's all about. Because the politicians answer to the world bankers, and the world bankers need there to be inflation. That's it. That's what COVID's about. That's what 9/11's about. That's what everything's about, guys. Inflation, inflation, inflation. How to make fuel more expensive, how to make goods more expensive, how to make food more expensive. So see, here's the thing. The less people who are involved in growing food and cooking food, the more expensive food becomes. It used to be that people could make ends meet. It used to be that the most wealthy people were the producers, the engineers, the builders, the farmers. They were the wealthy. They had it set. That everything was paid for. They had a good life. Life was fun. They got to drive around on tractors, bulldozers, and life was on their terms. They got to sculpt the world the way they wanted it. Nowadays, you don't see that many people who have the means to sit there and afford to be able to play on tractors and different things and just hobby farm because they have to make ends meet. They have to have a day job to be able to pay for the hobby farm, okay? They have to be involved in finance. They have to be involved in profiting from inflation. They have to be involved in trading stocks or trading commodities or trading futures or trading options. They have to be a super farmer where they have a bunch of people slaving away for them while they then go play around, okay? But the point is, hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. That's the real movie, The Matrix, how Agent Smith corrupted many people and got many people onto his team. It's because when you're for inflation, even if you call yourself a conservative, if you call yourself a Republican, no, you're not. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I'm not saying that my friend needs to go jump off a cliff, and I'm also not saying that my friend needs to go quit his job at the mortgage broker. But what I'm saying is, my friend needs to come to terms with the fact that if the day ever came where this world was quote unquote fixed, he would have to find a new job that same day, because that would be the same day that the prices on things would start to crash. We'd start to have deflation instead of inflation. Okay? So I'm making this video for him. I'm not trying to sound like a dick. I'm just being real. We gotta get out of the circle of bullshit. We gotta get out of the, if we just elect Donald Trump and we just get rid of these bad people, everything's gonna be fine, and then I can still be the hero and say that inflation's good. No, you're still them. You're now the worst of the evil. If you get rid of all the people who are more evil than you, you're now Satan, relatively speaking. And everybody who's preaching for deflation is on Team Jesus. Okay? Just being blunt, guys. So, when you say you want to save the world, those are very vague words. Okay, so let's just be real here. I'm going to end on this note. When you say you want to save the world, what, you're talking like planet Earth and all the birds and bugs and all that stuff? Okay, well then just get rid of humanity. Eliminate humanity and the world's going to be just fine. Okay? So, when you say you want to save the most humans, if you want to save the most humans, then you want deflation. Now, if you're a realist and you say there's too many fucking people on the road, there needs to be a competition, there needs to be a Darwinism of some sort, okay, one of those potential Darwinisms is inflation. Because that puts the poorest people who are not able to adapt and join with a big bank, okay, it puts the poorest people in a bad spot. Inflation does. That's one version of Darwinism. There's other versions of Darwinism, believe it or not. Believe it or not, dueling was Darwinism, when dueling used to be legal. You could set the duel up any which way you wanted. It didn't have to involve guns. It could involve, I challenge you to a foot race. I challenge you to a spelling bee. I challenge you to whose crop is going to yield the most this year. Let's have a duel and see who is going to be the next quote-unquote fertilizer company ingredient. Mine versus yours. Which one is the most poisonous? Mine versus yours. Let's do a real case study and see how many people get cancer after eating your food with the chemicals on it versus my food with the chemicals on it. Let's get back to real truth, right? Okay, so once you understand that, guys, you can start to understand what I'm saying. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And the problem is, we have so many people who get drunk at night, and it allows them to just reset. It allows them to never face their demons. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just a realist. I'm saying cars aren't going to keep going up and up in value if we have deflation instead of inflation. Therefore, it no longer makes sense for me to buy a Corvette, drive it for however long, flip it, and sell it for a profit, buy another Corvette, drive it for however long, blah, 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 blah. I lose out on that source of income. I got to get back to work growing corn and growing hay and growing or manufacturing things or engineering things. What you have to understand is the reason why all those jobs are diminishing is because those jobs don't make ends meet. Because the current economic system is rewarding the mortgage broker more than it is the farmer. And that's because the current economic system is geared towards inflation. Hope you guys get all that. See ya.